We will return, Nancy Guthrie back to Tucson within 4 hours. Now that's new information as far as I know, and that information suggests that they are still at least in the southwest region of the country, if not very Tucson. But they said it would take 4 hours. TMZ, who got one of these letters, these ransom notes, went to set up a map to see. Well, okay, let's assume that they're driving; they're not flying. Let's assume that they're not going to be speeding, because if they get pulled over for speeding, the whole thing falls apart. If it takes them 4 hours to return her, they could be, 60 miles an hour times 4 hours. That's 240 miles from Tucson in any direction. So they drew a big circle, and that takes up most of the Southwest, parts of California, parts of Arizona, parts of Mexico, parts of New Mexico, even a part of the Texas Panhandle would be in that range of 240 miles any direction. If you draw a circle around Tucson, 240 miles. It's a big area, not the entire United States, but so that's something that Harvey Levin, who is sort of the guy in charge of TMZ, is talking about, and he has some other ideas about the ransom note that they received.
Now that's a big area for sure, but it is not the full United States. It's not the world. At least it's a defined area. And again, if the letter is legitimate, then it would seem, based on the amount of time maximum it would take to bring her back to Tucson, it's this area that I would think authorities are most interested in. The letter, people have been asking, does it seem like it's written by just a crazy person? And the answer is no. This letter was very well constructed. It had structure. It had a beginning, middle, and end. It was well done. I mean, if you took this letter to an English teacher and said, give me notes on structure, on grammar, you probably would get no notes back. It's done by somebody, I believe, who is educated and really spent time. This was not something that took 5 minutes to write. This was a well-constructed letter. Final thing I want to say, and now this is opinion, that it is interesting to me that we got this ransom letter, but also the other two media outlets that got the ransom letters were both located in Tucson. They were television stations in Tucson. So why would somebody who wrote a letter like this know about the local stations and send to the local stations if they have no connection to Tucson? It feels like there is a connection to Tucson with the person who wrote this letter. Is it that somebody looked at Savannah Guthrie and said, let's find a relative? Or is it somebody who lives in the Tucson area and either knows Nancy Guthrie or knows of her and knows her famous daughter is Savannah Guthrie, and it hatches from that? It seems to me, just based on where the letter went, that it's the latter.
Now, he says at the end there, he's just offering an opinion, but I think that opinion does make some sense. So, could it be somebody from the Tucson area, somebody who knew of Nancy Guthrie and then decided to take advantage of it because they knew her daughter had, a lot of notoriety and one would assume, pretty good income, and the family could probably scrape up some kind of ransom fee. It's entirely possible. It is also entirely possible that this whole letter that everybody's focusing on right now is completely bogus. There's just really no way to know. And the family is making the point that, you haven't reached out since that initial note, which came, I think, on Monday, that they want to have a conversation with whoever may have their mom. Here is Cameron Guthrie, Nancy Guthrie's son, earlier today.
Cameron Guthrie, I'm speaking for the Guthrie family. Whoever is out there holding our mother, we want to hear from you. We haven't heard anything directly. We need you to reach out, and we need a way to communicate with you so we can move forward. But first, we have to know that you have our mom. We want to talk to you, and we are waiting for contact.
So, that's just sort of urging, trying to get some movement out of anybody who may have a control of Nancy Guthrie. There's a lot of stuff to sort of work through here with regard to what we do know. The timeline that we got yesterday from investigators, both you have your sheriff who's working then in the FBI, and everybody else in the federal government who might be needed is working on this particular case. These kinds of stories are really quite rare. But here's what we know. We know that that Nancy Guthrie went to a family dinner and was returned home at 9:48 p.m. They know this because that's when the garage door opens. And the garage door closes 2 minutes later. And, that rings true to me. You bring someone who has mobility issues back to the house, you're probably going to go through the garage. It's probably going to take a few minutes to get them out of the car and settled into the house. So a couple of minutes later, the garage door closes. And then there's no real activity in the timeline until 1:47 in the morning. And that's when they had a Ring camera or a Nest camera of some kind at the front door, and it disconnected from its Wi-Fi connection at 1:47. It looks like it was removed from its little harness there at the front door, and it became disconnect. And then that's at 1:47. At 2:12 a.m., there's a sort of a mysterious thing in the timeline. We don't get a lot of detail about this, and that's probably to protect information crucial to the investigation. But they say that software detected the presence of a person. Now, they don't talk about what kind of software, and it probably wasn't the doorbell camera because it's been disconnected already. We also know that they did not have a subscription, so there was no video to be recovered. But they do say that at 2:12 in the morning, software detected the presence of a person. Beyond that, we don't get a lot of information. And then we know that at 2:28 a.m., so that's about 14 minutes later, something like that later, the pacemaker that Nancy Guthrie had disconnected from her cell phone. They were connected by a very, it's a relatively weak signal, a Bluetooth signal, and it disconnected, which basically means at that point there was a separation between the phone and the person. We know that there was blood on the front porch, and we know, according to the investigation, that blood has been determined to be that of Nancy Guthrie. Beyond that, we don't have much. And you got to know that a tremendous number of resources are being brought in to investigate this case and to try to get to the very bottom of it. And they'll be looking at things like cell phone. I mean, one of the first things they're going to be doing in a situation like this is they'll collect all the information from the neighboring cell phone towers and the different companies that have service in that particular area, and they'll try to find out who was in there at, say, 1:47 in the morning. What kind of vehicles were there? What kind of cell phones were passing through the area? And, they can triangulate this stuff pretty accurately. There's a whole wing of the FBI that does this, that takes cell phone data and then are able to do a lot of really, really good investigative work. But that assumes that the people who came in had a cell phone. It's interesting to note they left her cell phone behind, not wanting it to be traced. So if this was a well thought out, abduction, they may not have gone into the area with a cell phone. Now, there are all kinds of cameras in the area, but these Ring cameras, according to the authorities, they don't know that they're going to get a whole lot out of them because of the way the houses are set back, and there's a lot of foliage and vegetation and that kind of thing. It makes it very difficult to get a clear look at the street There has been talk of a white van that was in the neighborhood, noticed by some for maybe a couple of days before that, but nobody really knows too much about that. So those are the basic facts as we know them today. And again, we're now entering, what is it, day 6 of this whole thing. And it doesn't seem that we've got a whole lot more information than when we started. If there is more information, and you can understand why, the investigators are holding that pretty close to the vest, and the family isn't talking about it in any great deal. So there is that. There is now a $50,000 reward out there put up by the FBI for information leading to her recovery or the arrest and conviction of people involved in her disappearance. They say that they believe she is still out there and they want her home. One of the big concerns the family has is apparently there are some health concerns and medicine that was not taken when she left the house. And so she has been without that medicine, one presumes, for a number of days. And that kind of situation is not good because apparently some of this medicine, they don't give us a lot of details because of HIPAA, but some of that medicine is said to be very important to her livelihood and well-being. So by the way, the ransom note in question is demanding payment in Bitcoin because that would be harder to trace. So there you have it. I mean, all of the information that we have, it's pretty thin. I do understand, having covered a few police investigations over the years, why they're being very cautious about the information that they're releasing, because if they do get a good lead, they need to have some facts that are not known by the general public, only by investigators, so they can verify the information. Some of the information in this ransom note, they went to TMZ and the 2 local stations, does seem to have a little bit of that kind of information, but not a great deal. If there is a situation involving a payment of a ransom, they're gonna have to give proof of life, and that's the most important thing right now. If they can get confirmation that she's still alive, then they can move forward and perhaps get a recovery on this. But right now, from whoever wrote that first note, as far as we know, and as far as we've been able to tell by talking to the police, there's been no further response after that initial note. We'll continue to watch this and talk about it and give you all the information that we have. But right now, it's 23 minutes past the hour of 3 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
For Defend Systems, Brink and his team want to help you. If you're a business owner, if you are a decision maker at a church, a school, or another place of business, or perhaps you're a decision maker at any place that people gather, Defend Systems is a life safety and security consultation firm based right here in Middle Tennessee. Here's the deal, folks. It is not likely that you will be involved in a workplace violence situation. It is not likely that you'll be involved in a shooting situation, and we would never want that to happen to you. But that possibility is not zero. Matter of fact, it seems like it's more likely nowadays than it has been ever before, and it is time to get trained, and hope is not a plan. Let's get trained with the best with Defend Systems. They offer your company rapid response medical training, emergency and intruder action plans, security improvement consultation, site survey and threat assessment, all customized to your facility and all at your direction. In other words, they can help train your employees as to what to do in the unlikely event that something bad should happen in the workplace. That's what it's all about at Defend Systems. Reach out today at 615-236-6484, 236-6484. Brink and his team will get back with you if they don't answer the phone immediately, or go online and find more about them at defendsystems.com. Hope is not a plan. Let's get trained with Defend Systems.
Lots of people in Nashville needing assistance with winter storm recovery, and we'll tell you what the mayor announced today to help out. That's coming up at 3:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Brian Wilson in for Matt Murphy and Ken Weaver. Before you go and get
Yes,
ready
sir.
for the news, I'm just curious your thoughts about this whole Nancy Guthrie story. It's one of the strangest cases that I can remember in a very long time.
Well, it is, Brian, and I mean, I keep saying it's random. I guess it's not random, but I think it's just, I don't know of a case like this since, I think since I've been around.
Well, you see on the TV shows with the cop shows, there's always
Right.
these kinds of storylines show up. But in real life, they're quite uncommon.
Right.
They don't happen very often.
And this is real life. And I mean, my heart just goes out to the Guthrie family on this.
Right.
I mean, this has, it would almost, I know this sounds morbid to say, but you would almost want your loved one to not be suffering. You know what I mean?
Right.
The not knowing is what is so hard here. But the little drips of evidence that keep coming out suggest that this was planned. It does seem like somebody, I don't know if it's an inside job, but somebody knew what they were doing.
Yeah, it looks like wasn't something they just popped together in a couple of hours.
Right.
I mean, if this is what it appears to be, then it was long planned and meticulously thought out.
But and Jennifer, my wife, was telling me that about a month ago, Savannah was kind of doing like, some lifestyle pieces. And apparently they were focused on her mother and where she lives.
Mm-hmm.
And I just think that it's kind of a weird coincidence, if you will, that this happens. And Jennifer says, I mean, they were showing her mother's house, where she lives, and then this.
Makes you think about that kind of stuff. I worked in television news for a lot of years, and they always told you, keep a certain amount of your personal information private.
Right.
Because, there are people who seize upon celebrity on television, and they just they're just crazy people.
And
But
what about
this doesn't sound like a crazy person.
No. And what's also so difficult about this now is the type of technology we have, and we have social media, and you can't believe what you're looking at.
Yeah. You don't know what's real and what's not.
Right. And
in fact, they could take her voice from those pieces that she did on NBC.
Right.
And recreate her voice.
Yes.
Through AI. I mean, and that's a whole nother, possibility. They get some kind of message from her, but is it real?
Right. It's terrifying, man.
It's just a really strange thing. Well, listen, I've talked too long, and it's time for you to do the news at 31
Yes,
minutes
sir.
past the hour.
I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. Got a full forecast and traffic coming up in 5 minutes. Lots of people in Nashville needing assistance with winter storm recovery, and Mayor Freddie O'Connell today announced the Restore Nashville campaign. Metro Action Commission Executive Director Jamaica Bias.
In the first hour alone, we received more than 130 applications, and on its second day, we are already at 800 applications. This shows just how great the need is. The program will remain open for 1 week, and we encourage eligible residents to apply as soon as possible.
Go to nashville.gov for that. And by the way, NES still has 1,473 outages. Well, on Wall Street today, the Dow topped the 50,000 mark for the first time ever. The rebound comes after days of heavy losses across the tech sector this week. And in Georgia, police say a body believed to be rapper Lil Jon's 27-year-old son has been found in a pond near the family's home. Nathan Smith, known professionally as DJ Young Slade, had been reported missing Tuesday morning. Here in Nashville, a Metro detective is safe after her undercover vehicle was hit by gunfire in South Nashville as she was conducting surveillance near a Walmart on Harding Place overnight. Police say another car pulled up next to the detective. 3 shots were fired into her car before the shooter took off. Described as a light-colored sedan, last seen speeding off toward I-24. Officers say the attack does not appear to be connected to that detective's investigation. And Metro Police say the man in a wheelchair who burned to death yesterday morning was trying to light a cigar. They say surveillance video shows he accidentally lit his clothes on fire. He has been identified as 62-year-old Jimmy Ray Dunn. That's the latest news. Traffic and weather next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News. All right, drivers, right now we've got emergency road work. It's in Pingree. It is blocking the right lane, 40 eastbound near the Davidson-Cheatham County line. We've got an injury crash in Hermitage, Andrew Jackson Parkway at Old Hickory Boulevard, Dodson Chapel Road. South Nashville, disabled vehicles blocking the left lane, 24 eastbound at Murfreesboro Pike. Glencliff, a crash, 24 eastbound at Briley Parkway South. I'm Ken Weaver.
What comes to mind when you think of home? Maybe it's meals around the kitchen table with the family, movie nights on the couch, a feeling of walking through the door and knowing that you're safe. Home is where life happens. It's the center of your life, really. And at the center of all of that is your house's foundation. At USS, they understand how important that foundation is to your life and how much trust it takes when you need help protecting that. January is a wet month, friends. We've already seen this when water starts showing up at your door or in your basement or your crawl space or anywhere it doesn't belong. What do? It can become a serious problem very quickly. Figuring out where the water's coming from, that can be a nightmare. It can come from poor drainage, cracks in your foundation walls, even a hidden leak. USS, their team of experts, they will find out why your basement or your crawl space is wet. They will create a customized plan to fix it the right way with a lifetime warranty. And friends at United Structural Systems, they're more than a team of problem solvers. They're your neighbors. They care about you, and they show it every single day. That's why they've been in business since 1994. USSTN.com, that's USSTN.com. At USS, it's more than just waterproofing. It's trustworthiness, commitment. They are USS.
It's 39 minutes past the hour of 3 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. Matt Murphy is off today. He'll be back, as far as I know, on Monday. I'm filling in today, Brian Wilson from my home studio in bucolic Watertown, Tennessee. If you're watching on Super Talk TV, I think our TV stream is holding its own today. I know we've been having some struggling problems with it, but hello, everybody out there in TV world. You can see my humble little studio, and if you look real carefully, you might see a glimpse of a sleeping French bulldog in the background. All right, so I want to move on to, we're going to talk a lot about ice, both the cold kind and the kind that, it works on immigration issues. We'll start with the immigration issues right now, and we'll get to the other a little bit later. And let's talk a little bit about some of the things that are going on. In Minnesota, we've decided to pull out a great number of people who were there, who were trying to carry out enforcement actions on immigration. And of course, it was a fight, but there was some accommodation that was made to make arrests at a jail and to avoid the conflicts out on the street. And then they have decided to pull out a lot of those people that they sent to Minnesota to sort of back up the ICE investigators and protect them, to cover their six, if you will. Tom Homan says, but don't read that to mean that we're going to be pulling back on immigration enforcement in the Trump administration. Here is Tom Homan.
I have overseen more interior enforcement deportations than any man since the Eisenhower administration. President Trump made a promise of mass deportation. I made a promise of mass deportation, and it's happening, and it's continuing happening for the next 3 years. We're not slowing down. As President Trump has said, worst first. But if you're in the country legally, you're not off the table. But as far as Mayor Frey and Governor Walz, now it's time to do your job. I said we're not going to do any further drawdowns if the hate, the rhetoric, and the attacks on ICE, the impediment and interference doesn't cease. This is on you now. So you say you care about public safety. You say you believe ICE has a duty to do. You all say you agree with removing criminals. Now's the time to take some action. Do a public service announcement and tell these agitators to stop what they're doing, stop attacking ICE officers. They're not going to listen to me. I agree. I'm skeptical, too, that these agitators are going to stop. This is where the governor and the mayor can help with this message. Make their streets safe again. They say that we're causing economic chaos and disturbance in the neighborhood. No, it's the agitators that put up illegal roadblocks. It's the ones that attack ICE officers. So rather than having 6 officers at a site to arrest a bad guy, now we're going to have 6 more guys to perform a security detail to watch their back. So what would take 2 guys to do in the jail, it now takes 12 guys on the street. Now that we're in the jail, now the jails are helping us. Rather than those 12 guys arresting that one guy, we got 2 guys doing it in jail. That releases 10 more guys to do immigration enforcement in the United States.
There you go. So, he sounds like he's sticking it out, and it's not going to be over anytime soon, and that's fine. That's good. I got no problem with that. This is, I don't know where we sort of changed our opinion about all of this, but this is what Americans voted for in a very dramatic way in the last presidential election. It was very clear that Donald Trump, if elected, was going to do everything he could to try to reverse the influx of illegal immigrants to this country that occurred during the Biden administration. People who are bad actors. Now, the one thing that I will say here is that they say that they're going after people who have criminal records to get the worst of the worst off the street first, and it would seem that if the numbers we're seeing about crime around the country being down so dramatically, it is having an impact. But that doesn't mean that you came across illegally and that you don't really have a criminal background. That doesn't mean that you won't be deported. That just means that you're not the focus, but if they happen to stumble across people who are in this country illegally, no matter what the circumstances, they're going to be deported. And that's the way it should be, I think. That's what we voted for. And just because it gets a little rough on the streets of Minnesota, I don't think the vast majority of Americans have changed their mind about this. As for these agitators. Oh, they're a fine bunch of folks, let me tell you. Here's a guy who got arrested. He's a member of Antifa. Now, I'm telling you, these Antifa people are thugs. They are really ugly, nasty people. And I, as a reporter, have gone up nose to nose with Antifa and what we at the time called the Black Bloc, or, these anarchists that are all well organized, very well organized, and they're very savvy about social media and how to use it. Well, this guy got arrested. His name's Kyle Wagner. And why did he get arrested? Oh, I don't know, for saying things like this.
This is where ICE has come to die. We want to know who they are. We will identify every single one of them, and we will prosecute them to the full extent of the law. And if that has to be done at the barrel of a gun, then let us have a little fun.
Wow. I mean, so, you can't do that. You can't threaten federal law enforcement officers like that. Kyle Wagner, 37 years old. He's bald-headed, tattooed, and was arrested in Minneapolis in the early morning hours wearing a sweatshirt that said, "I'm Antifa." His bald head and numerous tattoos, including resistance across his chest and 3-arrow anti-fascist symbol around his neck, have made him a recognizable figure on anti-ICE social media feeds. Wagner operated an Instagram account under the handle @chaos, K-A-O-S, .follows, where he amassed tens of thousands of followers before the account was deleted. In his bio, he used the hashtag Iron Front and described himself as an entrepreneur. So, basically, you cannot use a public account like that to refer and to threaten federal investigators and federal officers. "We are effing coming for you," he directed at ICE agents. "Get your guns." And he said, "It's fine. If we have to use the barrel of a gun, that's fine." Well, that's a little bit more than a protest. That's a threat of violence, and you just can't do that. So I'm telling you, these folks are extremely well organized. They are extremely well funded by the liberal left, by the progressive left, and at the end of the day, really, you just can't back down. Tom Homan is right. You just can't back down from that. You can't allow people who get out there and get in your grill to prevent you from enforcing the laws of the land. They're the ones who are in violation of the law, not the ICE agents who are out there trying to do what the law requires, which is actually, I know, what a concept after all the Biden years, but the law requires that immigration laws be enforced by the federal government. It is the federal government's job, and they have the full authority to do that. You notice, you might get a judge to put some kind of temporary ban on the ICE activities, but once it goes to an appeals court, it seems that ICE is getting a lot of support. It has happened. They've gotten support from the Supreme Court. They've gotten support from the courts of appeals. And even in more liberal districts, like the Nutty Ninth out in California, no judge seriously can make the argument, accept the argument, that this is not a proper activity for ICE. ICE, it's their job. And it is, the Constitution says that the enforcement of immigration laws is the responsibility of the federal government. Nobody wants to challenge that. Nobody wants to go to the Supreme Court and be overturned. So you do get some pretty favorable rulings after you get past these loony local judges who run for election in a local district and have to be beholden to the loony liberal folks there. But it doesn't hold up, and it's not going to hold up. Here's another story of interest. You ready? DOT crackdown pulls hundreds of English illiterate illegal immigration truckers off the roads as crashes mount. Operation Safe Drive. let's see, here we go. The latest iteration of Operation Safe Tribe ran from January 13th through the 15th on trucking corridors in 26 states and the District of Columbia, and removed nearly 2,000 unqualified truckers and other drivers from the road. The news comes days after a Kurd national caused a deadly wreck after he failed to brake for a stop traffic road in Jay County, that's in Jay County, Indiana, crossing the median, slamming into oncoming traffic. So we are cracking down on those, and as it stands now, they've done 8,200 inspections across 26 states in a 3-day enforcement blitz. The whole idea here, make sure that not only are our cities safe, but our streets and our highways are safe from people who should not be out there, who are not qualified to be out there. You've got to at least be able to read the road signs if you're going to drive a truck in America today. And if you can't do that because you're not from this country and you don't know English, then you need to come off the road. It takes away jobs from Americans who might want them otherwise. I hear people say, well, we just can't find enough truck drivers. Yeah, but this isn't the solution. This is not the solution. 50 minutes now past the hour of 3 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Friends, it's Matt Murphy for Keith, Stephanie, and the rest of the crew at Contours and Contours LLC. You know, we eat right. We try to exercise. We're trying to do the right things in the new year. It's halfway through January. How you doing with those resolutions? Have you lost the weight that you wanted to lose? Are you frustrated like you were last year because there are places where you simply can't get it off, and you're wondering, what in the world do I have to do? You have to call Contours. You have to allow Keith and his team to help you get to those stubborn areas where you're working hard, but you just can't get the fat off. Now, this is for both male and female patients, men and women. We want to talk with you. Sometimes we need a little help. And my friends at Contours in Cool Springs, they are here to help. Their ultra slim body contouring guarantees you'll lose 2 inches on your first visit, or that first visit is free. And oh, by the way, that first visit, that belly buster special is $99. I've gone through this process. The first time that I went through the red light therapy, which is non-invasive, it's safe, it's painless, all you have to do is lay there and enjoy the warmth of the red light therapy, and you'll lose weight. You'll lose inches. 2.67 inches. 2.67 inches. My first visit at Contours LLC. You could be the next success story. Give them a call today. Tell them that I sent you. 615-236-9960. 236-9960. ContoursLLC.com. What do you have to lose but inches?
You might be eligible for some of the new ways Mayor Freddie O'Connell announced today to recover, get help, that is, to recover from the winter storm. Also, an historic day on Wall Street. All that and more coming up at 4 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
It is 57 minutes now past the hour of 3 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. Brian Wilson in the chair for Matt Murphy. He'll be back on Monday. We haven't said much about Benghazi in recent years. It's hard to believe it's been 14 years since the attack on Benghazi led to the death of 4 U.S. diplomatic and military folks, including an ambassador who was there. What a horrible thing that was. What was really horrible about it seemed, as we got deeper and deeper into the investigation of Benghazi, is that no actions were taken to try to save the people at Benghazi. The crews were assembled and then told not to go. And that is just unbelievable. But we haven't really talked about it at all. It sort of has faded from memory. Well, now comes this. This is from the Epoch Times. The U.S. government has apprehended a key suspect in the September 11th, 2012 attack on the U.S. diplomatic outpost in Benghazi, Libya. Attorney General Pam Bondi announced today. Speaking to reporters, Bondi identified the arrested suspect as Zubair al-Bakush. Bondi said the FBI apprehended Bakush but did not say where he was found. The individual was apprehended and transferred over the night and into custody early this morning at an airfield. And that's all I can say to you on that matter, said FBI Director Kash Patel. So they're leaving. Apparently, it sounds like they may have gotten some help, but they don't want to mention who helped them make this arrest. If you know the story, 4 Americans were killed in the 2012 Benghazi attack, including U.S. Ambassador Christopher Stevens, State Department employee Sean Smith, and CIA contractors Tyron Woods and Glenn Doherty. The attack targeted a diplomatic compound that also served as Stevens' residence, as well as a CIA annex nearby. U.S. Attorney for the District of Columbia, Janine Pirro, said Bakush faces an 8-count criminal indictment, including charges for the murders of Stevens and Smith and the attempted murder of State Department Special Agent Scott Wickland. So there you have it. The Biden administration didn't do anything. The Obama administration didn't do anything. But the Trump administration has not forgotten Benghazi. It is now 4 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. Time for the news with Ken Weaver.
Four o'clock on the dot. I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. Got the full forecast and traffic in 5 minutes. A lot of Nashvillians need help to recover from Winter Storm Fern, and Mayor Freddie O'Connell today announced the Restore Nashville campaign that includes centralized locations where people can go to get help.
These assistance centers will have food resources, health resources, staff to connect individuals with social services, and hands-on Nashville.
Yeah, there will be 2 centers, the Hadley Regional Center and Smith Springs Regional Center, starting on Monday. An historic day on Wall Street.
This is a special report from ABC News. I'm Michelle Franzen. A record close for the Dow Industrial Index, trading and closing above 50,000 points today, the first time ever. It marks the best day for U.S. stocks, too, since May, with today's rally making up for losses much of this week. The S&P and NASDAQ adding and posting gains. Ted Weisberg is the founder of Seaport Securities.
What makes it even more amazing, quite frankly, is that we live in a world which is in complete turmoil almost on a daily basis. And, we sort of get emotionally pulled from pillar to post. And yet through it all, corporate America has done just fine.
President Trump in a social media post touting the milestone of the Dow, saying congratulations, America. Bitcoin also recouping some losses above 70,000 after dropping below 61,000 mark. And consumer sentiment also up, according to the University of Michigan Consumer Sentiment Survey.
Authorities
ABC News.
Authorities here in Nashville looking for a suspect who fired multiple shots at an undercover detective's vehicle this morning. Happened around 1 o'clock near the Walmart on Harding Place. Police say a passing car pulled alongside the detective. Someone inside the passing car opened fire. The detective was not injured. Investigators working to identify the shooter. They were in a vehicle described as a light-colored sedan, last seen headed toward Interstate 24. Metro Police say the man in a wheelchair who burned to death yesterday morning did so by accident. They say security video shows 62-year-old Jimmy Ray Dunn accidentally lit his clothing on fire while trying to light a cigar. And recovery costs continue adding up for Nashville residents. We've been telling you about this following widespread power outages during the ice storm. From spoiled grocery to burst pipes, some families say they're still digging out financially, like Stephen Coy of Sylvan Park, who tells Channel 4.
You know, the dollar signs were kind of flying around in my head as I thought, okay, this is not going to be a cheap week. Let's try to minimize it. That was, another level of stress on top of what we were managing with work and with the children being out of school.
Yeah, so he says he's going to sign this community petition at change.org that is demanding NES provide tiered credits for customers who lost power longer than 48 hours. Channel 4 says NES officials have not responded to those demands, but say crews are still focused on full restoration. By the way, we just got a news alert from Channel 4 that NES is warning of high winds, potentially causing more outages. As of right now, there are still 1,431 NES customers without electricity. That's the latest news. Traffic and weather next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News. Opryland, we got a crash on the right shoulder, Briley Parkway northbound and McGavick Pike. In Donaldson, a crash on the right shoulder, Briley Parkway southbound before Elm Hill Pike. Berry Hill, a crash, 65 northbound at I-440. And then in Pegram, emergency road work, right lane blocked, trying to fix potholes out there, 40 eastbound near the Davidson-Cheatham County line. I'm Ken Weaver.
It is 7 minutes past the hour of 4 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. You're listening to the Matt Murphy Show. Matt Murphy off today. I am your friend and radio buddy, Brian Wilson, coming to you from my home studio in Bucolic, Watertown. You know, here in Watertown, I've been talking to a lot of folks. We really got quite lucky, I think, with this whole ice storm. But you go just a little west of here, and as you get closer to downtown, it just gets worse and worse and worse. And it really was. I mean, did NES do everything that it should have done? No, it's pretty clear they dropped the ball on a lot of stuff, and there's going to be some repercussions for that. But it is also true, this is one hell of a storm. I mean, this is bad. Damage that has been done to our tree canopy in this area will take years and years and years to recover. We may get the electricity back on, as you heard Ken Weaver said. Since he checked the numbers, a few more people have had their electricity restored by NES. Now there are 1,425 people who do not have electricity still after this whole mess. But let's just talk about for a moment the trees. Give you some sense of it. Percy and Edwin Warner Parks, according to WKRN, remaining closed to the public after more than 2,000 trees were felled because of the ice storm. They're still trying to assess the damage, but, you know, these trees have been severely damaged, if not destroyed. Park officials estimate more than 2,000 trees were lost along the roads and the trails within the park. Fragile or partially fallen limbs caught on other trees remain a threat to visitors, so that's why they're closed. They feel like they could fall, and as you heard Ken Weaver say in the newsroom, it's a little bit breezy out there. If you have some weakened limbs, some that are hanging by a thread, and these trees have already been severely weakened, comes along even a modest little breezy day, and you could end up losing power and having more of those branches fall. So park officials are saying, stay out of the parks because the conditions are unsafe. Do not remove trees or debris from the parkland. Don't dump debris or vegetation on parkland. The Warner Park Nature Center sustained significant roof damage to multiple buildings and remains closed. Though the damage is significant, they say, we remain hopeful. Our parks are resilient, and so is nature itself. I've seen bad storms like this. I mean, never to this extent. I've never actually covered one that was quite as bad as what we experienced in Nashville and some of our surrounding areas. I've just never seen anything quite that bad. But even in the ones I've witnessed, it takes years and years and years for the trees to rebound. Some trees will have to be cut down completely. Some trees simply will not survive, and there needs to be a replanting. And I hope that when we do this, that we're thoughtful about where we put the trees. I've never really understood, it's been a long sort of a I think, a dumb thing. And in a lot of neighborhoods, you have a sidewalk and a little gap of grass, and then you go to the street. There's a little, and for some reason, people like to plant trees in those little gaps. Well, those trees are never going to be probably sturdy, healthy trees because you haven't given them enough room for the root structure to grow. And around here, sometimes the root structure is rather shallow because you run into rock pretty quickly when you dig down in a lot of our areas. So these trees are perhaps not as healthy as they might otherwise be. And then comes along a storm, and they just aren't up to withstanding the storm. Although, in fairness, it's hard to imagine that many trees could survive the kind of ice storm we had in this area. What could have been better, and what could have caused this not to be near the problem that it turned out to be, is if NES had done an effective job of trimming back the tree canopy. It's a thankless job, and most people don't really want NES coming out there and trimming their trees. They think, well, they trimmed the trees and now they look stupid, and they do look. Sometimes they look like gigantic Ys with, and they cut off one side and they cut up the other so that the power lines can go right between what used to be tree limbs, and they look stupid. Why was that tree ever planted in the first place? The city clearly. When they build houses and they open up new subdivisions, they have some say about where some of the trees, street trees might be planted. Street trees are often in the way of getting into the power lines or the phone lines or whatever kind of line that happens to be around there, your internet lines, your fiber and all that. A lot of that is carried by pole, is not buried. And I'm telling you, we make stupid decisions a lot of times about where we plant our trees. And look, I bought my house, and it was roughly 20 years old when I bought it here in Watertown. And those trees were planted by somebody else a long time ago. So, are you going to go in and take out all the trees? Well, I have taken out a few trees that in my property, and I'll tell you something, it's an expensive proposition. It's not cheap to take out trees and have them removed. So I hope that we are thoughtful as we start to plant trees and replace the damaged trees about where those trees should be planted and where they can grow without getting into the power lines. And I hope that NES is going to do a better job at trimming back the trees to make sure while they're taking out trees, go ahead and trim them back pretty good so that we don't have this problem going forward. And everybody says, well, the answer, Brian, I can hear you yelling at the radio right now. The answer, Brian, they'll say is, well, what you need to do is you need to bury these power lines. Well, in a perfect world, yeah. And I think that in a lot of new developments, they do bury the power lines. But you can't bury the overhead transmission lines. As far as I know, you can't. That doesn't seem to be practical. And burying around here, as I mentioned before, is hard because you go down just a little bit and you hit, in a lot of places, you hit solid rock. So I don't know that that's going to be solved. The only thing you can do is making sure that the tree canopy is not getting into the power lines. And that will help a lot. And sadly, NES cut way back. They can say they didn't, but there's a lot of evidence to suggest they did, and a lot of documents that back this all up. Tennessee Republicans, according to WKRN, have considered intervention against Nashville Electric Service after what some called a total disaster in responding to the large number of power outages. Initially, NES, this is Channel 2. NES tasked around 80 line workers with restoring outages across Davidson County and parts of the 6 surrounding. See, it's not just Davidson. There are 6 other counties that are served by NES. And as you know, about 230,000 of them lost power. Now there are thousands of NES crews on the ground, but it took a while, didn't it? Why did they start with such a small number? I think that's the real question people are going to want answered. Oh, and I can already see what's going to happen. You can count on this. There'll be a blue ribbon panel to investigate this matter, and they'll investigate it and investigate this thing to death, and they'll talk about, this, that, and about 6 months from now, when people are not thinking about the ice storm anymore, when the temperatures are much higher, and we're just not thinking about cold weather, ice, and what we've all just gone through, they'll come out with a list of recommendations that will widely be ignored, and nothing will change. Do not allow, as a customer of NES, do not allow this whole thing. Oh, we'll get some answers. We'll get some experts in here, and we'll do an investigation, and we'll get a blue ribbon panel to give us ideas about how things. Do not fall for that. Do not allow that to be the answer. You need people to stay on this, and the only way they're going to stay on it is if you stay angry about it. If you refuse to ignore this attempt to push it under a rug, kick the can. Basically, the blue ribbon panel is kicking the can down the highway. That's all you're doing, just kicking the can down the road. Tennessee Republicans, as I said, are now threatening state intervention. Here we go. This is from the Tennessee Star. 3 NES board members, including the chair, tied to organizations partnered with the power company. It looks like it's sort of incestuous here. With the municipality-owned utility under scrutiny following its response to Winter Storm Fern, that's what they called it, Fern, public disclosures and biographical information reveal 3 members of the Nashville Electric Service Board of Directors are tied to other organizations who also work with NES. NES Board Chair Delta Ann Davis, appointed to the board in 21, named its chair last year, is also a professor at Vanderbilt University. And during the year before joined the board, Vanderbilt entered a renewable energy partnership with NES and the TVA through the TVA's Green Invest program, which led to the selection of Silicon Ranch to build a new solar facility for the university's power requirements by TVA. How about that? When NES announced its new board chair in August, the company wrote that Davis previously led, you ready for this, tells you who they've got working there, civil and criminal litigations at major firms directed at Southern Environmental Law Center's local office, and chaired multiple city sustainable initiatives while serving as Nashville's first lady from 2007 to 2015. You see, as it turns out, this woman was married to former mayor Carl Dean. Second board member, Pinnacle Financial Partners chairman and founder Robert McCabe Jr., has been on the board since 2009. And as with Davis, the audit confirms McCabe disclosed his services to the board and recused himself from 2020 decisions by NES to provide banking services for the power company following a competitive business process. Third board member, Clifton Harris, served on the board since 2022. Disclosed he is president and CEO of the Urban League of Middle Tennessee. You know what I want on the board? I want people to understand the utility industry. I want people who will hold the utilities' feet to the fire when they're not doing the things they should be doing. But this sounds, you begin to see a list of regular suspects who show up at times like this, and they're all connected to the NES board. They need to definitely change the NES board, because I'm telling you, we just can't continue to put up with this kind of lackadaisical response. And, I just beg you, the only way this gets changed is if your level of outrage does not diminish. If you're good and mad about this, stay good and mad about it. And because I will tell you, the only time that you get the attention of the political officials is when you're mad about something. I think they get that you're mad. I think they understand that you're not happy about the way this was handled. Don't let them off the hook. Continue to put pressure to bear on them. It's the only way the situation will get any better. 21 minutes now, past the hour of 4 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7.
Hello, friends. It's Matt Murphy for Better Water and Better Water LLC. Friends, if you're looking for better water in your home, if you're thinking about buying a new home, as I have just done, you need to think about the water that you're drinking inside of that house. And I'll tell you what, Better Water provides superior quality water. Think of it as a huge Brita filter for your home. That's what they do at Better Water. And right now they're celebrating 55 years of service as a two-generation family business in Middle Tennessee. With residential and commercial customers, they also serve industry. They were founded in March of 1971, and we are blessed to have them in Middle Tennessee. The average tenure of service of their employees is over 17 years. That's pretty cool. Better Water LLC understands how to keep employees because they understand how to run business the right way. And we would love for you to become a customer of Better Water. BetterWaterLLC.com. That's BetterWater.com, I should say, BetterWater.com, or give them a call today at 615-355-6063. They do water softeners, specialized filters, UV lights, you name it, they do it. They will be at my home installing a full home system, and I encourage you to do the same. 615-355-6063.
A lot of Nashvillians need help to recover from Winter Storm Fern. Mayor Freddie O'Connell announced the Restore Nashville campaign today. I'll tell you what that entails. Meanwhile, some Nashvillians are going it on their own with an online petition to pressure NES to pay for the people's costs. We'll tell you all about this stuff at 4:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
He's got his finger on the pulse of what's going on here in the greater Nashville area. He's in the newsroom. We got Jackson there in the control room pushing the blinky buttons. I'm Brian Wilson, in for Matt Murphy, coming to you from bucolic Watertown. A couple of you wanted to weigh in on this whole ice storm story. Let's go to Alan on line 2. Alan, you're on with Brian on the Matt Murphy Show. What's your thought there, buddy?
Well, I was thinking about the storm and everything, and I went through the storm in 1951, and there's an article that I would like for you to research sometime soon. It was put out in the Tennessean magazine. It's a Tennessean newspaper magazine in 1979, and it was in January of 1979, I think was the issue. And it tells all about the 1951 blizzard, which we had 6 inches of ice at that time. So it was a pretty good blizzard.
Yeah.
And,
all right, we'll take a look at it. What was there anything interesting in it that you remember?
Well, my great-grandmother passed away, and the funeral home couldn't get there for about 3 or 4 days. So, but I had to go get water from a well up the street, and I was about 7 years old, thereabouts.
Wow.
And,
well, it's
interesting.
We are on a snow rain line, and it's really hard. I mean, we'll say this. It's really hard sometimes to know where it's going to be rain and when it's going to be ice and when it's going to be snow when you're right on that line, and that line basically is I-40. To the north, it's almost always snow, and to the south, it's mostly rain. But right along I-40, as it comes, and that's all of Tennessee, really, we're in an area where you can have these ice storms that are just so unpredictable. Dan is standing by, calling in from Woodbury with some ideas. What's your thought there, Dan?
Well, I survived the 94 ice storm in Grayville, Mississippi. We were without power for 2 weeks plus. It looked like the good Lord took a hedge trimmer and just trimmed all the trees about 10 foot high. It snapped concrete telephone poles and bent rebar that was in them. It got so bad. It was like 8 inches of ice. Anyway, if we had to get water, and we didn't have any water or electricity, so we had to get water, get a funnel, put a little cotton ball in the bottom of the funnel, charcoal on top, stand on top of that, and spread cotton on top of that to catch all the little stuff in the water that's from the ditch. We drank out of the ditch.
Wow. I mean, that is something people don't think about. In some cases, you don't have a water supply that remains constantly and reliable because you don't have the electricity to pump the water. You pump it up to the towers, and the tower uses gravity to feed it down to your house, but you got to get it to the tower, right? Well, sometimes those fail, I've been in situations with big natural disasters. The one that comes to mind is hurricanes, where they turn off all of the electricity because they've got so much damage to the grid, and then you don't get enough water to flush your toilets. That's a big problem. So, honestly, this was a bad one. It could have been handled a lot better than it was. But I don't think we should walk away without the understanding that this was a pretty bad storm as these things go. 4:30 now, time for Ken Weaver to pick up with the news on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. Got the full forecast and traffic in 5 minutes. A lot of Nashvillians need help to recover from the winter storm. And Mayor Freddie O'Connell today announcing the Restore Nashville campaign, which includes enough money to help about 600 people with housing costs. You can go to nashville.gov to check eligibility requirements and how to apply. Another part of that effort includes 2 centralized locations people can go starting on Monday.
Sometimes you know you need help, but don't know how to get it. If that's the case, please come to a disaster assistance center starting Monday. You might also learn we have resources available that you hadn't previously heard about.
Yeah, those 2 disaster assistance centers will be Hadley Park Regional Center and Smith Springs Regional Center on Monday. Meanwhile, there's an online petition to pressure NES to pay for people's costs. Channel 4 says some, like Steve Coy of Sylvan Park, spent hundreds on hotels and repairs after going days without heat or electricity.
Very close to about $1,000 just to get this place operational again.
A growing petition pressuring NES to automatically credit customers for long outages similar to programs in other states. NES, according to Channel 4, is not committed to any reimbursement plan, saying its current priority is getting everyone connected. Right now, they have 1,386 outages. Metro Police say an undercover detective is lucky to be unharmed after her vehicle was shot several times overnight. The detective was on surveillance in South Nashville near a Walmart on Harding Place when another vehicle pulled alongside her. Someone in that other vehicle fired into her unmarked car, hitting it 3 times. Investigators believe the shooting was random, unrelated to her operation. The suspect vehicle, described as a light-colored sedan, last seen headed toward I-24. That's the latest news. Traffic and weather next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News. B&A got a crash, left shoulder block, 40 eastbound at Briley Parkway. In Berry Hill, a crash on the right shoulder, 65 northbound at 440. Rural Hill, a vehicle fire. It's out, but still causing a slowdown. Right shoulder block, 24 westbound past Bell Road. Creve Hall, the crash on the off-ramp, partially blocking it, 65 southbound to go eastbound on Harding Place. And a crash on the left shoulder, 24 eastbound at Bell Road. I'm Ken Weaver.
Hello, friends. It's Matt Murphy for Efficient Heating and Cooling. I told you the story about what happened with me. You know, my heater, I've just been in the house. Well, we're not even officially in the house yet, and the heater kind of went janky. But I knew who to call, Jeff Eddy in Efficient Heating and Cooling. And Jeff sent out Roger, and Roger was so great. Let me tell you, they've got such professionals at Efficient Heating and Cooling. Roger's been in the biz for a long time. And he cleaned it up, and he fixed it up, and it was at low cost to me. That's what I love. Maintenance your units, friends, because it will extend the life of your heating and your air conditioner. Maybe you need a second opinion if somebody's told you that you have to replace. Well, here's the deal. I didn't know. Efficient Heating and Cooling could have easily said, yeah, it's time to replace that unit, Murphy. And I would have said, okay, but they don't do that. They said, we can fix this thing and we can get you more life out of that unit. That's called saving you money. And that's what it's all about at Efficient. So if something goes out, if something goes wrong, you need help, call Efficient. They're also an Elite Pro partner with Rheem, and they can select a new unit when the time comes. EfficientHVAC.net or call 615-784-4424, 784-4424 for our friends at Efficient. Guys, why not go over the top this Valentine's? Really make a statement with something that is personal, romantic, and meaningful. I'm talking about something amazing from Genesis Diamonds, something that she can keep for years and years and will talk about for years and years. Listen, flowers are wonderful. They're nice, but nothing is more timeless than a dazzling bracelet or a diamond pair of earrings or a colored gemstone pendant. And at Genesis Diamonds, they put together a special selection of thoughtful, affordable gifts for this Valentine's, including new creations from their exclusive designers. Truly unique pieces that will just have her going gaga. I mean, these are nice things and very affordable. The ultimate in value. Check out Genesis and their new half-price vault, a special selection of exquisite diamond jewelry at an incredible 50% off. That's half price off at Genesis Diamonds. They have an amazing jewelry selection, and they have a selection starting at $4.99, diamond stud earrings, bangles, bracelets, even engagement and wedding rings. So this Valentine's, let the non-commissioned experts at Genesis help you say, I love you, with a beautiful gift from Genesis Diamonds. Classic, elegant, it goes beyond the ordinary. Genesis Diamonds, Cool Springs and Green Hills. Stop by, shop for Valentine's, and tell them that I sent you, Matt Murphy, to Genesis Diamonds.
It's 38 minutes past the hour of 4 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. And yes, you may have figured out I'm not Matt Murphy. He's off today, filling in at the last minute here today. I'm Brian Wilson, your friend and radio buddy. And as far as I know, Matt will be back on Monday if he survives Super Bowl Sunday. Very quickly, Ken Weaver, let's just get it out of the way.
Yes, sir.
So where are you on the Super Bowl? Seahawks or Patriots?
I think the Patriots are going to win.
Really?
Yep, I think they've got a good enough defense. They can take advantage of maybe some mistakes that the Seahawks make, and I think they've got a good enough offense that they can